Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Hidden Hockey Podcast. Again, my name's Matt Gordon. We're going to go through and have a 4-hour live stream today of the NHL Trade Deadline. For those that have just jumped on, welcome as always. If you haven't viewed my content before, again, we're a Hidden Hockey Podcast. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. And we look forward to having you on here. I'm doing a ton of content in terms of the draft, trade deadline, IHF with future non-traditional hockey organizations coming on to the podcast to do interviews. Working on a few different interviews right now for those. So I'm super excited for that. As always, if you want, you can leave comments in the chat with any thoughts or anything you want me to answer regards to trade deadline, regards to prospects, whatever you want to do or whatever you want to talk about. I'm here to talk for the next 4 hours. So looking forward to having people come on and engage with the content. Really excited to get started here with the NHL trade deadline. So let's start with Tyler Toffoli being traded to the Winnipeg Jets. He's traded for a 2023 third rounder and a 2025 second rounder. As far as the trade goes, the conditions for it, I don't see any conditions. Sorry about that. No news on conditions or anything like that, but we're really excited about that trade. Another trade that just broke as well is Kyle Poso being traded to the Florida Panthers, and the Buffalo Sabres getting Kalle Jalin, young prospect defenseman out of Sweden, and a conditional seventh for this year's draft. Early reactions to those two. For the Tyler Toffoli one, going to the Winnipeg Jets for a rental and getting a couple of draft capital pieces. It feels like a very, very fair trade for Toffoli for a couple of draft picks. Whether or not Toffoli resigns will be interesting to see in Winnipeg, but we'll see where that goes there. And then Kyle Okposo providing the veteran experience to a team in Florida that I think is really poised to go and do a lot of great things for the next little bit here in not only the regular season, but I think they got a real shot to make it out of the East in the playoffs. Some trades that happened earlier today. Evgeny Kuznetsov is now on the Carolina Hurricanes. Originally was sent over to the AHL, being what is now touted as the richest AHL player to have a contract in the AHL at any point in time. He was traded to the Hurricanes, like I said, for a third-round pick to go back to Washington. An interesting experiment here, I think. There's some personal things that are going on with Kuznetsov that, we'll find more about in the near future, I think. And it should be interesting to see what happens out of here. I think reading in between the tea leaves, people know that, there's some things to work through with him. And then the Columbus Blue Jackets getting Malcolm Subban from the St. Louis Blues, just in a paper move for future considerations. That probably will be a nice new setting for Malcolm Subban, as Malcolm Subban's now hitting into his 30s and, still looking to find an NHL job somewhere. Should be interesting to see where that goes from here. And we're super pumped and excited for Malcolm Subban and his future going on here. So other trades, the big one that everybody wants to talk about that happened late last night, Jake Gensel going to the Hurricanes with Ty Smith, along with a boatload of players going over to Pittsburgh, and Michael Bunting, a prospect, Ville Koivunen, who could very well make Pittsburgh's lineup next year. Another good player in Vasily Ponomarev, Cruz Lucius, and then a conditional first in this year's draft and a fifth rounder. The Penguins are retaining a quarter of Gensel's salary for this year, and should be interesting to see what other things come out of those plays as well. Very, very curious on what's going to happen here. The first rounder will become Philadelphia's second rounder if the Hurricanes don't reach the final, and Pittsburgh's only going to get the fifth round pick, I should say. Sorry, if Carolina goes and wins the Stanley Cup. As far as that trade goes, it's really interesting to see Gensel in a Hurricanes uniform. That combined with the other trades that have gone on with Kuznetsov, and then you're looking up here, and they're nonstop today. Another new trade here with Ben Myers going to the Anaheim Ducks. I think the early winner right now to me is the Carolina Hurricanes. I think they're really poised to go out and win a they're looking to make a cup run. They're looking poised to spend every resource they can to find that. And I think there's a lot of potential in watching these players and watching them develop as well. And I think there's just a ton of potential there. There's some other new news breaking as well. Let me see here. Pat Maroon. It's not updated on the Trade Center, but Pat Maroon is officially a Boston Bruin. Perfect type of player for them in Boston. I think, a little bit of that nasty streak that, typically makes good Boston teams. They don't have, Milan Lucic may not provide the same role that he has in the past for Boston. So, having a guy like Pat Maroon to supplement that, I think is a big, big plus. Should be interesting to see that there and see what the return is on such things. And obviously the trade gates have fully opened now, 3 hours before the deadline ends. Should be interesting as well. Another thing, non-trade, but Jordan Eberle has re-signed with Seattle. The official number is 2 for $4.75 million AAV. So $9.5 million for 2 years. Good value contract there for Jordan Eberle as he's able to extend and get more opportunities there. Another trade that's recently happened is Anthony Duclair going to Tampa Bay for a 7th-round pick, or with a 7th-round pick, and San Jose goes and gets a 3rd along with Jack Thompson. It should be very interesting to see what happens there. Another prospect trade. I'm going to scroll down here. We talked about the Duclair trade. Jakub Trenin going to Colorado, along with Casey Middlestad and Sean Walker. The team just loading up in Colorado to make a cup run. Making a nice trade there for a couple other, Jeremy Hansel, a pretty decent prospect and a 3rd-round pick. Troy Stetcher goes over to Edmonton. Edmonton as well has been a pretty big buyer in this in the trade deadline. Troy probably will fit nicely as their 7th defenseman for them. And then you add in the likes of Adam Henrique and a few other players, and it should be really interesting to watch these guys continue to play well and continue to find the next step for themselves as players. So Anthony Beauvillier traded over to the Nashville Predators last night, or yesterday morning, for a 5th-round pick. Quite an odd trade. And Beauvillier's had a down year, but it's interesting to see where that goes from here, and we'll see what happens from that perspective. I know the Vegas Golden Knights is another heavy player in this draft in the trade deadline. Noah Hannafin going to the Vegas Golden Knights for Daniil Miramonov, a conditional 1st in 2025 and a conditional 3rd in 2025, along with a 2024 5th-round pick. A lot of draft capital for Calgary there. Obviously, you don't have anybody the likes of Noah Hannafin in regards to that trade, so you had to trade a few picks. But Vegas is also showing their hand and showing their card and wanting to show that they're willing to make trades and willing to make deals. So that should be very interesting to see that going forward and see what happens and how things will load up here for the next little bit. As far as guys still out there right now, I think there's some interesting players I think that are still left to be traded. I don't think there's a ton of guys left, but the one to me that really stands out is Pavel Buchnevich from the St. Louis Blues. We'll see if that ends up being a trade. It looks like we just had a trade here for a minor trade here for Chad Ruedel for the Pittsburgh Penguins. He gets traded in New York to help supplement their defense for a 2027 4th-round pick. Should be interesting to see where that goes from here. But I'm very curious on the overall look of the New York Rangers defense. I think they've got a lot of depth, and it's pretty solid down the line. Just to see what you have going on there. I think there's a ton of really good players that are available, and we just gotta, there's just a lot going on. Just to make sure that everybody's aware of that. So, again, for those that don't know me, my name is Matt Gordon. I'm with the Hidden Hockey Podcast. I welcome you to join me on the live stream. I greatly appreciate everybody who is willing to go on here and talk hockey with me. There's going to be some future content coming out in the next the next few months where I'm going to try and talk to some international organizations, get their feel and view on their organizations and the growth that they need in their organizations, and then hopefully help provide awareness to the average hockey fan and show them that, hey, countries like Greece, countries like, all these other non-traditional hockey countries have the opportunity to go and, hear their viewpoints as well. For those just joining, again, the latest trade was Chad Ruedel going to the New York Rangers to help bolster that defense, and it's in return a 2027 fourth-round pick. For those joining, hello. Again, my name is Matt Gordon, and greatly appreciate you guys coming in here. So let's look at some other players that have been moved around as well. I think one minor prospect trade that I'm going to get into is Riley Damiani going to the Calgary Flames, potentially looking to maybe get into the NHL for Matthias Emilio Pettersson. Those in the online prospect world know him from his days where he was posted as an 8-year-old on HF board saying, here's the next Norwegian prodigy, look out for Norway's Gretzky. And he's turned out to be a really good prospect, but not to the level of the hype that was given to him on HF boards. I think there is a interesting potential there for him in Dallas. I think there's, he's in the right system there. So I think there should be hopefully some development for him and some growth for him to help really continue to push and get to where you need to be, in your own respective, in his own development and his own perspective there. So let's check in here. Nothing new on the draft capital wise. Again, another trade as well. Pat Maroon, another guy who is recently brought into the fold in Boston. I think that's going to be an interesting trade, and we'll be very interested to see how that plays out through the next little bit here. I'm very curious to see what other things will keep people in the framework here in the trade deadline. We're going to look here to go to some other trades that are happening. Another minor prospect swap in Jan Mysak going from Montreal to Anaheim for Jacob Perreault. Jacob Perreault, for those who are unaware, his brother is Gabriel Perreault, and he's a high-end prospect from last year's draft who's gone on to play really well at Boston College. Jake Perreault is just finding himself in the AHL. He will have eventual time in the NHL. I think he's an interesting prospect and a guy who's got a lot of upside, a lot of development still in his game. But if he's anything like his dad Yannick, he will find his way and he'll find his growth path towards those next opportunities in the NHL. Let me look through here. I'm going to check the Twitterverse here. Just get a look to see what else is breaking. Let's look here. Hello, for those just joining us. Again, my name is Matt Gordon. I'm with the Hidden Hockey Podcast. We've recently broken down some trades here. Obviously, one that I was just going to get into was Bowen Byram for Casey Middlestad. I felt like a fairly even swap for the two teams. I think, Bowen Byram needed to change the scenery. He wasn't going to find that next top level pairing that everybody thought he was going to be coming out of the draft, and then all the concussion issues as well. He just needed to find a new environment, new approach to his game, and it should be interesting to see where we go from here for Bowen and his development. I think Casey Middlestad really shores up that middle six for the Colorado Avalanche. Now you look at Nathan McKinnon being your 1C. You can fill in Nichushkin and Rantanen and Landeskog and all their other skilled wingers can all fit into that top six, and you add in Casey Middlestad as your 2C to really solidify that top end, and really provide some depth there. And then they got depth scoring beyond belief as well. So I think they're going to be just fine. As long as the goaltending holds up, I think they're going to have a real shot here to continue to play well and find those next steps. Going on to the trade deadline here and going into the playoffs for the next little bit. Slower move down right now. Move over here real quick. Nothing new in terms of other prospect coverage. Feel free to leave some questions in the chat as well regarding prospect or anything prospect related, anything draft related. More than willing to answer questions. It should be interesting to see what we're going to get here in the next few hours. If you have questions on your team, feel free to leave it in the comments. Would love to talk to any and all that are interested in talking more about the trade deadline, as well as prospects for those that are in the NHL, those that aren't drafted, and those that need a few years still to be drafted. So, looking forward to hearing from everybody here as well. Obviously, as you guys know, the U18 Division III tournament is also going on right now. I can share some updated scores on that. Let's see here. Hong Kong and Turkmenistan and Thailand are all tied at 2-1. South Korea looks like they may be relegated into what could be a Division 4 division that could form, depending on the new members that may have U18 teams. But it should be interesting to see the growth packing of that here as well. I'm going to do a full IIHF preview at some point, probably towards the end of April, and really go over all of what's happened in 2024 with the IIHF. That'll probably not be a live stream. That'll be more of a video that I produce and create. But that should be interesting to see. Review the top prospects, review the countries that have really grown in the last little bit, and that should be a future content piece that I'll have going forward. Coming into this. So. One sec. Let me get in here. Nothing new in the Twitterverse so far, but those willing to put some questions in the chat, feel free to do so. Looking forward to hearing more of your guys' potential content pieces and your different thoughts on these things. So looks like Maroon is officially moved for a conditional 2026 sixth round pick. So for those that haven't caught on yet, Pat Maroon going to the Boston Bruins from the Wild receiving a 2026 sixth round pick. Interesting trade there. Makes a lot of sense. Hello again. For those just joining us, again, my name is Matt Gordon. Welcome to the Hidden Hockey Podcast. I will do these live streams every once in a while for various things, including the NHL Draft. I will do some on the junior drafts as well this year. The OHL, the WHL, the QMJHL drafts. I'll do one for that, and then I'll probably do one for the USHL drafts for the entry draft and the futures draft, um, and the CHL import draft in the summer. Very excited to do some more coverage of uh, you know the the NHL and the trade deadline. Leave any questions in the chat. Would love to talk hockey with anybody, and should be a good opportunity to share whatever hockey knowledge we can together, and we'll see what happens coming out of the draft here. So it should be fun. I keep saying draft, I mean trade deadline. Um, let's see here, Hello again. For those just joining us again, my name's Matt Gordon. Welcome to the Hidden Hockey Podcast. Waiting for updates on the draft here. On the trade deadline here. I haven't seen any updates in terms of some, trades that are happening. The most recent one is Pat Maroon going to the Boston Bruins for a 6th-round pick. Should be interesting to see where that comes. That 6th-round pick is in 2026, by the way. Um, Interesting pick there, I think, for Boston. I think they're going to really miss Lucic having that physical impact. Who knows if he'll actually be ready to really provide that impact that a Pat Maroon would. Pat Maroon is still a few weeks, I think, from coming back from his back surgery, and I think once he's ready to go, obviously he'll be a huge piece of their playoff run going into hopefully into the conference finals, and potentially even more so the finals, which is where everybody in the East wants to go. They're obviously going to have to battle the likes of Florida and Detroit and in Tampa Bay if they somehow become a wild card team. It should be interesting to see where that develops and what comes out of it. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the chat. Would love to answer them. And that's in regards to anything. It could be prospect related. It could be trade deadline related. It could be anything you want. But obviously, the focus of today is on the trade deadline and maybe some overall reactions in regards to the trade deadline as well. So look forward to having your views and your comments on here, and greatly appreciate those that are tuning in and listening. Refreshing here. Nothing new as of late. Yeah, if we want to talk winners so far, I think you got to consider the Colorado Avalanche as a winner. What they've been able to acquire between Casey Middlestad and Sean Walker, and various others that they've been willing to get. Obviously, Vegas Golden Knights getting Noah Hannafin. I think that's a huge win for them, and there are various other picks as well. Sorry, actually scroll all the way down here. For those just joining, welcome. Willing to talk trade deadline with anybody. Even if it's not trade deadline related, if it's prospect related, if it's reaction to a trade, I'm willing to talk to any and all about any sort of trade that's happened today, and or any prospect questions you guys have. Obviously, there's been a lot of trades today. Todd Toffoli being one of them, with the Winnipeg Jets trading for a 2024 third-round pick and a 2025 second-round pick to the New Jersey Devils. Kyle Okposo obviously went to the Florida Panthers. That was reported about a half hour ago. In return, Kalle Salin and conditional 7th. Salin being a prospect from Sweden, I believe plays for Modo. He is a interesting long-term project, but somebody who could potentially make the NHL and a good savvy pick up for the Buffalo Sabres. Chad Weedle just got traded to the New York Rangers from the Pittsburgh Penguins. Obviously used to solidify the D there in New York and really provide some solid depth. He goes for a 2027 fourth round pick. And we're looking at more stuff and more opportunities here. Anthony Duclair goes to Tampa Bay for a seventh, and Tampa Bay, I believe, receives a third. So that was an interesting trade for Tampa Bay. I think picking up a guy like Anthony Duclair is going to be quite the add for them depth wise, and add some more speed and scoring in the lower half of their lineup. And so it should be interesting to see what happens here. Again, no trades as of the last 10 minutes. We'll update. I'm going through Twitter, and then I got the Trade Center loaded on here as well. When I see it, I'll report it. Obviously, the latest trade I think that's happened has been Pat Maroon to the Boston Bruins for a conditional 6th round pick, going to the Minnesota Wild. Hello, Steve. This is the Red Wings rumored to call up Bergeron. Well, obviously we know what that means. I think there's a potential trade in the works there. Should be interesting to see what happens there. Thanks, Steve, for updating me on that. I must have just missed it on Twitter. Thanks for joining, by the way. Anybody else, feel free to leave any comments in the section. We've had a few of you go in and view, so I appreciate that. Steve, for an update for you as well. Nothing new in terms of trades, but Boston just picked up Pat Maroon for a conditional 6th round pick from Minnesota. Tyler Toffoli was also traded as of this morning. He went to Winnipeg for the 2024 third rounder and a 2025 second rounder. And then Kyle Poso going to the Florida Panthers, going for prospect Kalle Salin, who plays for Modo. He's a Swedish defensive prospect and a conditional 7th rounder in this year's draft. So, and then Evgeny Kuznetsov also was traded this morning to the Carolina Hurricanes. And that was for a 2025 third rounder, which that should be interesting. I'm curious to see what happens out of that. Kuznetsov famously today was found to be the richest salaried AHL player in the league's history. Obviously, being paid $7 million a year to go play in the minor leagues is not ideal, and obviously that precipitated the trade to go to the Carolina Hurricanes. So a lot of depth there for Carolina. They're obviously looking to add some scoring depth. They've added him, and they've added a few others. Obviously, Jake Gensel being one of the major trades of this deadline. Ty Smith to help bolster their defense, and then they traded away a boatload of people, including Michael Bunting, prospect, and Ville Koivunen, who plays out of Finland, really playing well and having one of the best under 21 seasons in some Liga. Vasily Ponomarov, who is another guy who's playing AHL hockey, could potentially see himself in the NHL someday. And then Cruz Lucius, who is another really high-end prospect playing for the University of Minnesota, battling some injuries and just needs a new environment. Also comes with a conditional first in this year's draft, and then conditional 5th in this year's draft as well. Should be interesting to see, what those other opportunities that present themselves will be. But we'll see here with the other picks here. I'm going to look on, sorry, I didn't even scroll that far up. And then these trades will update in real time as we go here, and, provide any feedback on anything you guys see, or if you have any questions, feel free to leave some comments in the chat on your right. Looking forward to talking more about some trades that are hopefully going to perk up here in the next couple hours. Another thing was Jordan Eberle signed with Seattle. He got a 2-year extension for $4.75 AAV. So $9.5 million a year for 2 years. Pretty good signing there for Seattle. I think another way to kind of solidify and bolster, their lineup here going into the playoff hunt. Condition on the Okposo trade. So again, recapping the trade, Okposo to the Florida Panthers for the Sabres with a conditional 2024 7th round pick in Kalle Salin. the seventh rounder could turn into a fifth if Florida wins the Cup. We'll see what happens there. They look like they could potentially, but it should be interesting to see what happens after that. And we'll see what happens going forward here. Looking in on some other things. Pagnotta was the one with the rumor here on Bergeron. I just saw that. Let's see what else is going on here. Newer thing just came in. Jason Zucker looking to go to the Nashville Predators. Looking for more information. Elliot Friedman just tweeted about it. Look here. See if I can get any more detail. I'll update you with more details as they are found. But officially, Arizona sending Jason Zucker to Nashville. Trade details will be added in once I find them. Or if one of you lovely people would feel free to love to add them in the comments. You're more than likely willing to do so, and more than willing. Some other trades that happened, some minor kind of trades as well. Ben Myers went from the Colorado Avalanche to the Anaheim Ducks for a 2025 fifth rounder. That's a interesting swap there. I think just a swap of environments, just to get him a new approach to things. Malcolm Subban is going to the Columbus Blue Jackets from the St. Louis Blues, just for future considerations, just to move him into a different spot. Additional things on here. No other immediate trades, but we will see what's going on here and try to figure out next steps for some of the recent trades that are going on here. Again, those on here, thanks for joining us. Looking forward to talking more about prospects, talking more about the trade deadline, and live reacting to the trades as they happen. Some trades this morning, nothing too involved. The biggest one being Pat Maroon going to the Bruins for a conditional sixth. And then we're working here on finding the details about Jason Zucker. He just reported on here as well. He's going to Nashville for some additional details that we'll find out in the next few minutes here. We're just waiting for the tweets to catch up with the official stuff. We'll see what happens here. So I'm going to continue here and finding more info. Let me see if I'm looking for some additional sources as well to try and see what happens here. Nothing new from the elite prospects to try and update. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything either, Steve. I was trying to look to see if I can see any resources that are out there, but nothing yet. Sure, it'll update when time comes. There's a rumor right now, apparently, about Lawson Krause potentially going to the Canucks. That's hearsay, though, as of right now. That should be interesting to see what happens there. I will be curious to see if that actually ends up being anything. And then let's see here. I can still. Oh, Evgeny Kuznetsov just signed a deal as well with Carolina, so they're going to take for this year. He's $3.9 million AAV, and they're going to look to potentially renew a contract for Kuznetsov if they obviously like the return they get from him. So that's an interesting buy for them. It's a pretty low risk thing for them, especially when Carolina had the cap room. It's a pretty savvy move, I would say, by Carolina to look for something that's an asset but an undervalued one, and really extracting that value. That should be interesting to follow as we go into the playoffs here and see if it really comes to fruition like it will. And I'll be curious to see what happens there. Look for some other things that are going on here. Nothing new offhand. The Duclair deal has some additional details. I've reported on it already, but for those that are just joining, Anthony Duclair is now with the Tampa Bay Lightning for a 2025 seventh rounder. And the San Jose Sharks are going to receive Jack Thompson and a 2024 third round pick for the Tampa Bay Lightning. So that should be interesting to see what comes out of that, and what kind of overall uh, depth that provides for Tampa Bay going into this playoff stretch here, where they're hanging on to a second wild card seed. Is that enough to keep them on that second wild card seed, or is that going to push them outside of where they want to be? Obviously they clearly think they are a playoff team and they have the opportunity to be a playoff team. So we'll see what happens going forward, and just hope for the best there in terms of next steps. For those joining, hello. Got a few people on here, which is great. Looking forward to having more people hopefully jump on eventually as well. Obviously the trade deadline had a lot going on as of this morning, and obviously late last night. The big deal being Jake Gensel and Ty Smith going to the Carolina Hurricanes for the boatload of players that were in that, including Michael Bunting, Ponomarev. Here, I'll give you the whole draft here because there's a lot. Ville Koivunen, Cruz Lucius, a 2024 first and a 2024 fifth. I think Carolina is really, really pushing here to try and get themselves over the next step, and we'll see what happens going through the rest of the deadline here. I'm going to check Twitter again just to see what's going on, see what other things to report here. Nothing new as of yet. Let's see here what else is going on. In a real lull period here in terms of actual trades. There must be a lot of people working on the phones. Nothing finalized as of yet. For those just joining, the biggest trade you've probably missed out on is Pat Maroon for going to Boston, and Boston in return getting a conditional sixth. And then new detail here for Toffoli's trade. It looks like the Devils have retained half the salary going to the Jets. So that's a lot of salary to eat for New Jersey. But a really savvy pick, if true, on top of the picks. This is probably the closest I've seen in terms of a kind of almost a fleecing, if you will. The Jets getting an asset like Tyler Toffoli at probably a $2 million price tag, giving up a second and a third seems to be a little steep, but a great move by the Devils nonetheless to really manage their assets, really getting towards that that rental price. I mean, they may be setting the market here for the rental price in the next few hours, but really I think that's a huge return for retaining Tyler Toffoli at half. I would think you would only trade a second for that, but good on them for being able to extract an extra third out of that. Refresh here, see if there's anything new. Nothing new. Let's see here. Michael Bunting's already joined the Pittsburgh Penguins for practice. That's interesting. So he obviously is going to play for them pretty soon. Let's see what else is going on here. Other hockey for those who are willing to watch. The the Minnesota State hockey championships are going on. So if you're bored at work, feel free to jump onto that. Also, as well as the 3B U18 tournament is going on right now as well. So for those in the crowd that are interested in that, feel free to watch those as well. For those that just joined, hello. Again, my name is Matt Gordon. I'm with the Hidden Hockey Podcast. I cover everything from NHL draft, trade deadline to prospects. You name it, I'll cover it. And, thank you for joining. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below in regards to trades. If you want me to have a trade reaction, I will. Any proposals you guys have for trades as well, that's something I'm open to listening to and giving my feedback on. The most recent trades that have gone on are obviously listed on the screen here. We're waiting on details for Jason Zucker, but Jason Zucker is officially going to the Nashville Predators. Return unknown. And then Pat Maroon is going to the Minnesota Wild for a conditional sixth. The return is not listed on there, but it has been confirmed via Twitter. So feel free to leave any comments below. If you haven't subscribed, feel free to subscribe on YouTube. Just type in, obviously, if you're here, hit the subscribe button. Otherwise, if you go on Twitter, you can go to Hidden Hockey Podcast. If you go to Instagram, it's at Hidden Hockey. Look forward to engaging with more people and more content pieces as well. So excited for those that are willing to talk. We're still looking. Nothing new yet on the Zucker trade. We're still waiting for details. The trade call is officially complete on the Tyler Toffoli, so no added conditions other than a recapping of it is Tyler Toffoli going to Winnipeg. The Devils receiving a 2025 second rounder and a third in 2024. And New Jersey also retaining half of Toffoli's salary. And then obviously Oposo going to the Florida Panthers for a conditional seventh. That seventh can go to a fifth there as well. That should be an interesting thing as well. We're still waiting on the Jason Zucker return. Question from Steve here. You think the Wings are going to do anything? I doubt a big splash, but opening a spot on the D for Evanston would seem ideal. I would be curious to see as well. I mean, you could see the likes of like I could see like Justin Hall getting traded, depending on what they could get for him. Whether that turns into a sixth or a seventh round pick, I think either way that's fine. Obviously, they're going to want to open up a spot for Evanston, but I do like the way the defense has been structured so far. I don't see like a Sherrod or Petrie going for any deal unless it's like a home run thing that Stevie couldn't miss on. I do think they may acquire maybe one more depth forward, or if they're a high-end scoring forward, I think one guy who potentially could be really good is Pavel Buchnevich for the Wings. That would be huge. I think from a depth perspective to be able to have him on the wing as well, it'd be super interesting, and that seems to be where I think it'll go. And then you got another comment here, Sean. probably covered this, but Kuznetsov was traded to Carolina. Yep, with Washington retaining 50% of its salary. Yeah, that was a huge pickup for them. That was a very savvy pick. I think if we were to declare winners right now for the trade deadline, I think you got to put in Carolina's got to be one of them. I think Vegas has done an excellent job. Colorado's really provided some good depth. And then I think the non-playoff team right now that I think's done a really good job is Buffalo. I really like what they did, getting Bowen Byram, really shoring up their young D core. Because now you got you got Darlene, you got Owen Power, and then you add in Bowen Byram. You got three guys that are all under the age of 23. I mean, actually under the age of 25. That's really solid going forward for them. It should be really cool to see them kind of grow and develop in their overall team aspect as well. They can always get a forward in the next few drafts here, but solidifying that young D core is, I think, really going to put them in a nice spot. But yeah, it should be interesting to see. Yeah, and Steve's earlier comment, I think Evanson will be brought up at some point. I think he's probably overdue to be brought up, just because he's been playing really well in Grand Rapids, and I think he's almost been a point per game. I'd have to look at the stats. I know recently he's been putting up a lot of points, especially on the power play in Grand Rapids. So I think that's something that would be a pretty value-added thing for the Wings to have going into the playoff run here, but not shake the boat too much to where you're destroying team chemistry there. Again, looking here to see if there's any updates for Zucker going to Nashville. Nothing on the return as of yet. Let's see here. Looks like there might be something. No, nothing yet. Okay, so we're still waiting on the return there. If you haven't seen Sean, obviously there's another trade here in Pat Maroon going to Boston for the return there is enlisted, but it's a conditional sixth. And then some other trades. I'll go through some of the earlier trades as well. Chad Ruedel is a depth defenseman going to the New York Rangers for a 2027 fourth rounder. Probably going to be a seventh defenseman for New York, but an interesting play nonetheless. Kyle Poso, yes, he's still in the league. He is in Florida for, he's going there to provide some added depth, and coming from them, going to Buffalo is Kelly Shalin, who is a depth defensive prospect to add some more young defensemen to that potential core in Buffalo, and a seventh rounder. Tyler Toffoli going to the Winnipeg Jets. Also, New Jersey retaining half of the salary there. New Jersey getting a 2024 third rounder and a 2025 second rounder. Pretty savvy pick there. And then, as mentioned earlier, and then the big trade from last night, Jake Gensel going to Carolina with Ty Smith. Pittsburgh receiving a ton of prospects, the likes being led by Billy Koivunen, who plays in Karpat in the Simliga, having one of the best under 21 age seasons in Simliga history, going as well with Vasily Ponomarev, a Russian winger who is in North America right now playing the AHL, Cruz Lucius. His name's misspelled there. That's interesting. Michael Bunting obviously is a big name. And then, the 2024 first rounder and the 2024 fifth rounder, both conditional. Should be interesting to watch those kind of come into play here as well. And then the Anthony Duclair going to Tampa Bay with a seventh rounder. And then in return, San Jose receives Jack Thompson, a younger defenseman, probably more of a depth role, and a 2024 third round pick. And that's what's going on for the recent stuff that's happened from last night. Avs. Oh, okay, so Sean here with a comment. Avs traded Ben Meyer to Anaheim. Yeah, the Wings do need defensemen, Ethan. They do. Hopefully they can find a way to swing a big one. I was really hoping for Noah Hannafin. Bummer that he's not. Obviously Vegas stole him for whatever reason with their magical cat magic. And Mark Stone suddenly being hurt. That's been interesting as well. I'll get to Sean's comment here now. Avs traded Ben Myers to Anaheim. I think the Avs are still sitting heavy on forwards, right? They are actually. Now that they've added some big pieces, what are their remaining goals to achieve before deadline? I think they'd like if they could swing goalie. I think they would like it. I think they're comfortable with Gorgiev. Their backup right now is Eustace Anonin, I think is his name. He had back-to-back shutouts recently, so he's maybe finding his groove as the backup. But really, honestly, they've got everything. You go in, you got the first line being Ranson and McKinnon, and obviously you add in Landeskog once he comes back, and then you add in Casey Middlestad they just traded for, getting rid of Bowen Byram, going the other way. You lose a little bit of lack of depth in defense, but their defensive core is arguably the best in the league, even without Bowen Byram. You add in Cale Makar and Devin Tays, and they have Sam Girard, and just everywhere they have anything, they're really good. So honestly, they're just looking to pick up whatever scraps they can. I think to me, they're the favorite out of the West for me. I could see them, and I'm leaning towards Florida right now being that being the Cup final. So I'll be curious to see if that actually happens. It'd be a cool prediction from March on out. But I think Florida Colorado seems to be the final that I'm seeing in my head. We'll see what happens out of that. But I think both teams have really good depth. Florida in particular is a really heavy team that goes out and plays tenacious and plays physical and has a hard game to them, and it should be interesting what happens there. But I'm super excited to see what goes on. And thanks for the questions, Ethan and Sean, and then Steve. Thank you for your questions as well. I'm gonna go back here, see if there's any updated trades at all. It does look like they added it's a 6th round pick going to Arizona. Is that it? If that's the only thing going back, maybe they'll lose tonight. That'd be great because Arizona only getting a 6th round pick for Zucker is it's one of the more questionable trades I think I've ever seen in a trade deadline, because Jason Zucker can still put up 25 goals a year if he wants. Very odd trade there unless there's some major issue with Zucker in Arizona. Good play by Nashville. I think Nashville is doing a good job as well. They've kind of come in, and they're looking to make themselves a really solid team going into the playoffs as well. I don't know if they have enough necessarily to put themselves in a real contention, but it should be interesting to see what goes on, and we'll see what happens. But that's an interesting trade. I'll say that's interesting. But yeah, Nashville's gone on. They've really done some sneaky stuff here. I think they made a trade earlier the other day. Nothing today, but they made some other stuff here with they traded off Yakov Trenin, young forward who is also going to Colorado, another depth player that they'll really like there. Anthony Beauvillier as well. That's a really savvy pickup. Seems like their ability is just buy low and see what kind of assets they can get out of it. So they're looking at a lot of reclamation guys in Beauvillier and Zucker here, potentially fill out their team. But I really like how that looks for their overall lineup. It should be interesting what else happens here. The rest of these are kind of earlier trades. But obviously Dallas made their move earlier with Chris Tanev going to the Dallas Stars. A prospect going back, and Artem Grushnikov, old school kind of player, really tough, physical, in your face kind of guy. You get him, you get a conditional 3rd rounder in 2026, and then the 2024 2nd rounder. That trade was made a couple weeks ago, but there's some interesting stuff there. Anthony Mantha obviously going to Vegas as well. It's just some interesting trades that have happened in the week prior, obviously, and then. There's for Wings fans, that's an interesting name that just got traded here. Kind of a AHL swap, but Nick Patan going to the Rangers for Turner Elson going to the Minnesota Wild. Steve got me to it as well. Steve also mentions in the comments here, which not official yet, but it sounds like Phil Kessel is going to sign for the remainder of the season in Vancouver, which is, I think, it'd be really savvy. I think that's an excellent play there. If and when it becomes official, it sounds like it. I think they have until the end of the month, I believe, to make that deal, if I remember correctly. But Phil Kessel, yeah, would go to Vancouver and finish out the season in the playoffs, going in for add some really nice scoring touch there. I think he would fit in well. You put him with Pedersen on the power play. I think that would work magic. Obviously you got Quinn Hughes at the point. That would be a really good power play heading into heading into the playoff run here. I think they got a good team too. Between them and Colorado, if that becomes a conference final series, that's going to be an absolute slugfest. The goaltending is going to be interesting. Demko is a really solid goaltender. He's been playing like a top 10 goaltender throughout the whole year. Should be really interesting to see kind of what happens in terms of the growth and development of the Vancouver Canucks. But yeah, that would be interesting as well. Let's see what else is popping up here. I'll check out Twitter. Thanks, Steve, for updating in the comments there. And for all the other people that have come onto the chat, hello. Again, my name's Matt Gordon. I'm with the Hidden Hockey Podcast. Feel free to follow me on Instagram, just at Hidden Hockey, all lowercase. YouTube, obviously, if you're here, just go and hit the subscribe button. Takes you a quick flick. And looking forward to having you on here. And then if you have any other questions, feel free to leave them in the chat below. Plenty of others have done so already. Thank you to those that have. It's appreciated for sure. And keeps it interesting. Obviously there's nobody wants dead air time during these live streams, so I've been going for 55 minutes here, and obviously the chats help a lot. So feel free to put any proposals, any draft things, your comments, anything you want in here. Feel free to add, and thankful for those that are. So if you guys haven't already as well, my other content I've been putting out lately is a lot of draft related content, little 30-second shorts to give you kind of a recap of each of the 2024 draft prospects. You can find those in my videos tab on YouTube, and I'll be posting those on Instagram coming in the next few weeks. Oh yeah, I forgot about Sean Monahan. Yeah, Sean Monahan going to Winnipeg as well. That was, I think, last week or 2 weeks ago the trade was made. That's going to be a heck of a line. And then Shifley probably on your first line, and your second line center. I mean, it could be Kyle Connor would be interesting. I think between those two, that would provide a really bolstered offense. I know Winnipeg right now as a team is really actually struggling for money as a whole. Their franchise sounds as if they're losing some season ticket holders, and I hope they're not moved, but I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that they're moved, especially with the weak Canadian dollar. I don't think that adds to anything as well. We look at the Arizona Coyotes. I think they can be moved as well. I'm getting kind of off track here. It's not really deadline related, but that should be interesting to see that going forward. Obviously, the Wings play Arizona tonight in that 5,000 seat stadium. That shall remain nameless, but should be interesting to see, the future there. And obviously, we saw the trade that was just made for Jason Zucker. They're looking towards whatever prospects they can get. But the interesting thing with that too is, they're running low on potential contracts now to give these picks. They got, I think, like 25 more picks in the next 3 drafts. And obviously you sign the likes of Logan Cooley, you sign the likes of like a lot of these young first rounders you're going to have to probably give a contract to. They're putting themselves in a very odd position that they're going to have a bunch of young guys all within 5 years of each other, and then putting them all into a core is going to be a very interesting thing for them to have to develop and get around in the next 5 to 7 years. And who knows? They maybe won't have a team in the next 5 to 7 years. So we'll see where that goes. But there's a rumor I just saw on here. One sec. Look real quickly here. I see it. There was a rumor about Capo Caco I just read. basically saying that they rejected a trade for Capo Caco. If I find it later, I will. But that would have been an interesting trade if that was true. Going back to Twitter now. Let's see what's going on in the Twitterverse. There's a minor league trade that was just made. Chicago Wolves traded Jake Wise, or received Jake Wise from the Charlotte Checkers for Mitch Van de Sample, who's a young defenseman. Jake Wise, at one point in time, when he was 14, 15, was hand in hand with Jack Eichel as a prospect, and then obviously Jack went one way and Jake went another. That should be interesting as well. Sean here puts a comment. I read potentially Vetrano or Zegras to New York. That would be interesting. I think Zegras is an interesting player in that I think he needs a specific environment for him to succeed well. Like, people are linking him, I think, to Detroit sometimes. I don't know that it fits as well as it should because, you have a player like that in Daniel Sprong. Does it help to have two? I think, I think that's something that, the Wings could explore, but I think it's more of a draft conversation once they find out the future they have with Sprong. But, you already got to put Zegras out there in a limited capacity. He's going to get a lot of power play time. I think New York, obviously losing, the likes of a Tarasenko and not having players like that, I think, slipping him in would be interesting. I think it would be probably a good thing for them to have that. And Vetrano is a guy who I think he's finding his way as a player. I think he's still got a lot of game to him. Both of those would be very interesting for the Rangers. I think they would really make sense if they're looking for like a second power play trigger. I wouldn't mind that at all. I think they're two of the more intriguing prospects. Not prospects. Two of the more intriguing players, if you will, for the New York Rangers to explore, as well as the rest of the league. I think Florida would be an interesting place for them as well. They've obviously looked at and have a lot of different offensive options between, Sam Reinhart scoring, looking like he's going to score about 55 goals this year. And then you have Alex Barkov and Matthew Tkachuk. And, that group is a really solid group that, they're going to grow and get better together. And it should be interesting to see what happens for them as well. I think there's a lot of potential in the lineups, both in the Rangers lineup as well as with the Florida Panthers. The Wings did just make a trade, actually. Klim Kostin going to San Jose. Detroit receives a defenseman, Radim Simic, and New Jersey's 7th round pick in 2024. So that's a new pick this new trade just released less than a minute ago. Again, the Wings acquire Radim Simic and New Jersey's 7th round pick in 2024 in exchange for Klim Kostin. I don't really love it, if I'm being honest. I think we need more players like Klim. I don't think Radim Simic is that physical of a player. I don't think he's that good of a player, if I'm being honest. I don't really love that. That's a shame. Sorry, I'm letting my fan come out a little bit, but not an ideal trade there for the Red Wings. I wish that would have been something a little different that popped on my feed, but whatever. It is what it is. So that's the latest trade there. Again, for those who didn't catch it, Radim Simic going to the Red Wings with a 7th round pick for Klim Kostin going to San Jose. Steve, love Kostin, very lackluster. I would agree. Not really sure, unless they just wanted to open up more spots. I mean, that's the only thing I can think of is they found Kostin to be a roadblock. I don't necessarily agree with that. But whatever. If they can get a star out of the 7th round pick, that'd be cool. But not a huge fan of that from a Wings perspective. I think San Jose, it's a savvy trade. I think it's they're going to use Kim Clausen probably in their lineup. I think he adds a little more vigor and you know some real pace to them. So that's a bummer. But he may have requested a trade. We don't know. It's hard to be out there and put in what he does in the lineup, and he really didn't bring as much as I think people would have liked here in Detroit. But at the same time, I think his physical game, the element he brought, um, I felt like really supplemented our lineup. So it is what it is. We'll move on to some other trades here, but that's the latest. You can catch it on there if you haven't seen it. It's Radim Simic, um, who likely will be a third pairing guy. I don't see him being higher than that for Detroit if he even plays there at all. I might move Justin Hall up and put him at 5, 5 or 6 in our D core. But yeah, so part of me thinks that's a move though to not force Edvinsson into a awkward position. Edvinsson's not going to want to come here and play third pair defenseman. He's just not. It doesn't make sense for him to. Grand Rapids is very much, playing well and doing very well as a team. They're second in their division, and are more than likely going to be in the playoffs. So I think they want him to experience a playoff run. So maybe that's the reasoning maybe behind the trade. But interesting nonetheless. That it looks like the interesting. It looks like that deal is official for the Jason Zucker one. So that's an official return. Which again, 6th-round pick is very, very mediocre for what you're getting out of Jason Zucker. They've already put Seamek in Grand Rapids, so all right. There you go. All right, there's your answer, right? They already put Radim Simic back in Grand Rapids, and interesting. I'm wondering what they're gonna do with. Huh. Yeah, so Simic, college closer to Florida. Yeah, that's going to be interesting. Yeah, Steve says per Malik trade provides room for Bergie. I suppose. I do find there's got to be another move here though. I think because Bergeron's not gonna. He shouldn't sit. I don't know who else is going to be moved. I mean, Costin has been in and out of the lineup. Um, you can't put him on a 4th-line role, but you can put him in a role that's going to be, a good player. So we'll see what comes out of that, unless there's some other moves here. I do wonder who will be the guy out. Does that mean Christian Fischer plays less? Does that mean, I mean, hopefully not like a Robbie Fabry. I hope it's, my mind thinks it's going to be probably Christian Fischer who gets that, which again takes away from what this team needs. They need guys like Fischer who come in and they drive and they develop and they go and they create havoc. And right now, this Detroit team doesn't have enough of that, which makes the Costin trade interesting. But if it's to make room for Bergeron, we'll see. But I'm curious on that myself. But we shall see what happens there. Other trades. Let's see here. See what else is going on. The Coyotes for the Zucker trade as well. They do not retain any salary. I don't know if I said that already. I think I did. Interesting though. But that's the case. And then we're looking at some other stuff here. I'm gonna look. I'll provide my top guys as well that haven't been picked already or haven't been traded for. One guy in particular, I think, who we should hear his name, if not today, but at the draft, is Jake Chikrin. I think he might be gone from Ottawa. So, whether or not, they're willing to trade him to certain teams, I'm not sure. But that should be interesting. Could look and see what else is going on there. But Riley Smith's another guy who might get dealt. I could see that potentially happening. Matt Dumba is another guy. Markstrom might be dealt. I think that's your premier goalie if you're going to get anybody right now. I don't see any other goalie leaving their team. But I could see Markstrom getting dealt only if they think they can't get it done. Like if Calgary believes they can't make the playoffs, I could see that happening. But they got to obviously decide that in the next hour or so, and I don't think they're willing to move from him. Other guys who could potentially be traded: Dominic Kubalik, another Ottawa guy who could potentially be dealt. Let's think of some others. Another name that's been thrown around a lot, defenseman wise, is David Savard. They're looking, I think, for a first round pick though for David Savard. No offense to David Savard, he is not worth that. Somebody already made that mistake before. I can't imagine them doing that again. That would be interesting to say the least. Getting a drink here. Sorry, guys. For those who just joined, hello. Again, my name's Matt Gordon. I'm with the Hidden Hockey Podcast. Thank you for joining. We're up to 7 now, which is awesome. Obviously, I may not get to my draft mark here, but, I also do a draft live stream. I'm working on some interviews here with some international organizations. One in particular, I was looking at, we're looking at, countries that are non-traditional hockey countries, one being Greece, another being Armenia, and a few other nations that I'm looking to secure some interviews for. If you're in here, hello. Thanks for joining. And so there will be a whole lot of content coming up in regards to the NHL draft, a whole lot of content in regards to content in terms of international hockey, and looking forward to covering a lot more, hopefully, in the coming months, with time allowing. Let's see here. I'm going to update the trade tracker here, see if there's anything else new. We're officially now an hour and 45 minutes away from the deadline. So there should be some interesting picks here, I would think, going forward. Some guys left over and stuff. What I might do is, if I have the opportunity and if YouTube will allow me, I might put on some trade center as well, for a little bit. And we'll see what happens out of that. But no, the latest trade obviously is for the Wings. Radim Simic, who actually has already been sent down to Grand Rapids, was traded for. He was traded to the Red Wings along with a 7th rounder for Klim Kostin. Klim Kostin goes to San Jose. And the thought is you're clearing up roster money and spots. But in my head, I think you're losing a lot of physicality, and I'm sure we'll hear about that when, the Wings are in the first round and are getting bullied by whatever team they're playing, and we're going to wish for a player like Klim Kostin back. So we'll see what happens there, but looking forward to, more potential pick some opportunities here and see what happens. Going forward here in the next hour and 45 before the deadline. I'm going to stay on for about maybe half hour after the deadline. Talk, give a recap of what I thought of the deadline for various teams, and kind of go from there. Again, for those that just joined, feel free to leave any questions or comments you want below. Looking forward to answering any and all. And should be excited to see what else comes out of here going into this trade deadline here. As always, doing these for an hour and 15 minutes, it can be quite exhausting. Because I love hockey, but talking about the same thing for a while and repeating the same things over and over again can be a bit much. But thanks for those that have stayed on and continue to stay on. That means a lot. And let's see what else has got going on here. Well, to see if there's any other newer updates. No, nothing new. Jordan Eberle's deal for his extension also includes a no trade clause. So that's going to be a 2-year, 4.75 AAV with a no trade clause attached for Jordan Eberle to re-sign with the Seattle Kraken. Interesting. Okay. Very interesting. And then anything else on here? Nothing else related wise. For those interested in my other content, if you haven't viewed it already, put out a lot of draft highlight videos. So that's some little 30 seconds to a minute shorts going over the top prospects in the 24 draft. In my opinion, I got a highlight video on guys like the projected number 1 Macklin Celebrini, another top 5 candidate Cole Yzerman. There's Artem Levshunov, a guy from Michigan State who's a defenseman who very well could find himself in the number 2 or 3 slot, and a couple other prospects as well that I put out some highlight reels on that might be available in the, anywhere from the, 5 to the teens in terms of the draft here. So question here from Sean. How are the no trade clauses valuable to the players? Just job security sort of thing, or are there other benefits? So the value in having the no trade clause really comes down to controlling your environment. Obviously being that, these players are on the move all the time and usually without their own consent or want. That's where the value comes in. So, there's a ton of different ones. There's a full no trade clause, which is literally just don't trade me anywhere. There's also ones where depending on the team. So there's like a 10-team trade modified or a 10-team modified no trade clause where you submit your list, and you can submit your list as many times as you want through the year. It's not dependent on, you don't have to do it at one point of the year, another point of the year. You can update it as much as you want. And that's why Evgeny Dadonov in Vegas lost their pick, was because of, they had the opportunity to obtain and submit their lists as much as they wanted. But there was a thought that, some of that information was withheld from Vegas, which is here. A lot of that's he said, she said stuff. But it provides the job security for one. The job security is a huge thing there, as well as you just maintain your roster spot, keeping where you want to be, and being able to stay in that environment for longer, as well as there's some other, you have the 10-team, and then I think there's also a 5-team no trade clause as well. Those are less frequent, because usually if you want to, you're more than likely going to do a full. But if you provide 10 teams, I think it provides more flexibility and more ability for players to at least control whatever destinations they want to go to. They don't want to go to a bottom feeder, if they don't have to. So thanks for that question, Sean. That's really what it comes down to, though. And it's also just kind of, you have a no move clause as well, which is preventing you from even being sent down to the waivers as well. But those are usually only agreed upon between the teams if they know you're a high end player and then we're going to make that move anyway. So thank you for the question. That's, a good question. Let me see here. Any other details? Look. No new updates as of now. Yeah, nothing new as of now. It looks like the trades are at a halt for right now. So we'll fill in more. So, what's interesting is some of these guys are going to probably be looked at towards the draft. I think Trevor Zegras is one guy who could be seen as, a move for a pick at some point. I don't know if he goes today. I think he'll be probably one of the more highly sought people when it comes to the draft. When they're able to make picks again or trades again. I think, there's more that you can look at for some other players as well. I think, you can look at like Frankie Vetrano might stay where he is right now as well. I believe he's in Anaheim, leading scorer there, so maybe he likes the opportunity and stays where he is. And Paverbeek might like him there just from a development perspective, and then maybe deal him at the draft as well. I could see, another goalie I didn't think of just now that might be dealt based on their situation is Montreal's Jake Allen. He might be a guy who is available. He currently right now is helping to supplement Caden Primo and Sam Montembeault and for the Canadians. But Jake Allen's a guy with veteran experience. He's got playoff experience. Could be a good add just from a backup perspective for any of these teams that really need to solidify their goaltending going into the playoffs. Wouldn't mind seeing that, for certain teams here. I think it would make sense in like a team like Tampa Bay. I think would really like to see him go and figure it out there. They're right now, you're sitting with Vasilevsky and then you got, Jonas Johansson, but looking at Jonas Johansson compared to Jake Allen, I think you probably want to take your chance on a Jake Allen, and we'll see what happens if that happens in Tampa Bay. I think Colorado feels pretty comfortable in their goaltending. Florida feels pretty comfortable in their goaltending. Should be interesting to see what else comes out of this, though. But I think there's a lot of really good potential players that could be, held for now and then use as collateral once the draft comes. Let's see if there's any more info out there. Let's see. And nothing new as of now for any trades. Those that have stayed on, thank you for joining on here. I think we've peaked at like 7 or 8 for right now for people that have come on to the pod. So thank you for those that have stayed on. It's been awesome to kind of talk with a lot of you, and for those that are just kind of creeping on the outside, if you're listening at work, great. If not, if you want to contribute, more than willing to do so. More than happy to answer any questions, regardless of how ignorant or however small they are. That's kind of what I'm here for, is just really to just answer any questions and then just get all ultimately any feedback I can get from people as well. Yeah, again, as you see there, that's the most recent trade is, the Wings getting Radim Simic and a 7th-round pick in this year's draft for Klim Kostin. A recent pick that, the Wings got actually just this summer. So he goes off to San Jose. We lose a little bit more of a physical element, but, opens up a spot for a guy like Johnny Berggren, who they called up today. So that's a potential opportunity that could develop out of that. So, yeah, I agree, Ethan. I said it earlier, but I think, it's a bummer to see him go. I think we lacked that physical element, and he really brought what I think this team lacked. I'm hoping that, they're going to try and find some bite, or if not, some of these other guys on our team, like, hopefully like Ben Sherratt comes in and plays a little bit more physical. Maybe Mo kind of steps up more into the more physical realm of, we know he's capable of it. So it's just a matter of getting him to do that more. I think Christian Fischer has the opportunity. If he's given more time, I think he's willing to be physical as well. I think it's a bummer to see him go, but I think the illusion is that that opens up time for Jonathan Berger to come into the lineup full time. And, if that's the case, that's another skilled player, another guy you can use on the power play who can provide some additional scoring. And hopefully can, figure it out there. But you're good, Ethan. Yeah, I'm on a plane and cut out. No, you're good, man. No problem at all. And, yeah, Justin Hall, is he going anywhere? That's who I think would be the guy if we're moving any defenseman. He's the likely candidate, I think. Not because he's played bad or anything. I just think he doesn't really fit in our lineup all the time. And I think, you can get rid of him for a 5th or 6th. Yeah, it should be interesting to see if that happens or not. We'll find out if, you're able to get him dealt to somebody else. One natural fit, which is ironic considering he just came from there. I thought Toronto would make a lot of sense for Justin Hall to go there. I think they're lacking a little bit defensively. I think they could use some depth in their third pairing, and I could see him going there. That would be one place I would be curious to see if he would be willing to go there. Unless he's got a no trade there that I don't know of. I believe he doesn't have a no trade, so he's well within his rights to be traded there. But maybe there's some sort of dynamic that prevents that from happening. But that to me seems like a really natural fit. Another one that seems like a natural fit if they were playoff bound, but they're not, is the Minnesota Wild. He's from Minnesota, small town kid from Minnesota. So I thought maybe there would be a fit there, similar to like a John Merrill move. It would be funny to send him back. Yeah, I would. I would be. It would be quite humorous, for sure, especially if he ends up not really succeeding there. I know he was kind of the Jonathan Ericsson at Toronto. So if he could, that would put some shit in some Maple Leaf fans' cornflakes, that's for sure. But yeah, it would be it'd be fascinating for sure. And we'll see what else is going on here in the draft there. But thanks for the questions, Ethan. Enjoy your trip wherever you're going. I know we'll chat soon. I'm sure we'll golf a lot this summer, so we'll figure it out here. But see what else is going on in the Twitterverse. Ooh, okay. Not a trade, but Matthew Nyes. Speaking of the Maple Leafs, Matthew Nyes is apparently supposed to be sent to the AHL, which is fascinating. He's been a pretty good player for the Maple Leafs. They say it's a paper thing where they're just trying to keep themselves in order, and they'll bring him back up the next day. But we'll see what happens out of that. Let's see what else here is going on from a trade perspective. Yeah, nothing else new as of now. But we're getting into an hour and a half before the deadline. Should be interesting to see what happens here, and find out some next stuff coming into the deadline here. If any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. We're back up to 7 people, so that's awesome. Again, my name's Matt Gordon. For those that just joined, if you don't know me, cool. If you do, even better. Feel free to follow on Instagram, on YouTube, and on Twitter. Those are the 3 platforms I'm mainly on. If you haven't seen any of my recent content as well, I have a couple shorts, YouTube shorts that I've developed for some draft prospects coming into this year's draft. I have a couple of interviews I'm looking to get done with a couple of international organizations to help bolster their reach and their approach, in terms of getting more people involved and knowledgeable about the game of hockey and countries you wouldn't expect it. So that's something I'm looking forward to doing over the next few months with a different series. And I'm just excited to, continue to put more content out in regards to the draft, the trade deadline, international hockey, and anything else that we can put out here for the trade deadline as well. So let me see what else is going on here. Stuff. No picks as of now being traded. Let's see what else is going on here. Nothing else new in terms of draft picks or anything like that. So we'll see what else is coming out of this. But again, for those joining, thank you for joining me on the pod here. Greatly appreciate it. And, feel free to put any questions in here, any sort of trades, things that you think could happen for various teams. I'm looking forward to talking more with some more people about trades and, even if it's draft related content or anything else, or if you have any questions about prospects, anything like that, I'm more than willing to talk. You guys are probably wondering, okay, man, it's a Friday. What are you doing? Doing an hour and a half live stream. I was actually originally intended to have the day off of work, so I used the opportunity and kind of decided I want to put out a live stream for today. So, hopefully going to do this for the draft as well. And I'm putting out some more content in regards to interviews, doing some live stream stuff as well as, some small videos, just, for different things. And, mainly draft related, maybe some IHF stuff. I might even do a potential, history series in terms of hockey, different countries. And maybe do like a small snippet of different things. So just to make people aware of, hockey in those countries and things like that. So, as far as today goes, nothing new with the picks. We're going to continue to go on here. I could do a recap real quick for those that, maybe have just joined. Pat Maroon went to Boston for conditional 6th round pick. Jason Zucker goes to Nashville from Arizona for a 6th round pick. Nick Patan and Turner also go to different organizations in a minor league swap. Tyler Toffoli to the Winnipeg Jets as of this morning, and that's for a 2024 3rd round pick and a 2025 2nd round pick. Malcolm Subban going to the Columbus Blue Jackets to try and open up a spot there. Then you got Evgeny Kuznetsov is going to the Carolina Hurricanes, 50% retained, and a 2025 3rd round pick. The big trade from last night that really put some shockwaves in the NHL was Jake Gensel and Ty Smith going to the Carolina Hurricanes. Pittsburgh Penguins in return receiving Michael Bunting, Vili Koivunen, Vasily Ponomarev, Cruz Lucius, 2024 1st round pick, and a 2024 5th rounder. Penguins also retain a quarter of the salary in that trade as well. And then Anthony Duclair going to the Tampa Bay Lightning with a 7th round pick for Jack Thompson and a 2024 3rd rounder. So that's what's happened in the last little bit here. Any questions, again, like I said, feel free to put them in the chat. Thanks for those that have already done so. Again, like I said, if you're new, feel free to give a subscription. Sean comments on here. Rangers are quiet today, but do they really need anything else? I think they would like a maybe some more confidence in their goaltending. Shesterkin really hasn't been the workhorse that I think they expected in terms of this year. I mean, obviously he's been a beast through his whole career, but he's on a bit of a downswing right now. I don't know that they feel super comfortable in their backup goaltending. Obviously there's Jonathan Quick, who's their backup right now and is obviously extended. I think he's done a good job, but is that enough? I don't know that a Shesterkin Quick goaltending duo is gonna put you through, but I like how it's built. I should say I like how it's built. I like that Quick's a guy who's been through it all. He knows how to mentor a guy like Shesterkin and get him really through the tough stuff that he wouldn't know how to deal with. And then, you look at their defensive their defensive group is solid. I mean, Adam Fox, Keandre Miller, Brian Lindgren. They got a group, so that they'll be fine there. And then I think once their X factor is really going to be their high end prospects too. Does Lafreniere finally take a step? Does Capo Caco finally kind of grow and become a 30-point, a 30 goal scorer? Like a lot of that stuff I think is where they're going to come into. They may add another forward. I don't think they have to necessarily add another forward, but they can. It would be interesting to see. I think there's a lot there, and we'll see what happens. I think there's so much to look at and so much to see and wonder about. I think there's a lot of growth there, and it should be interesting. Deep run for Quick in the playoffs, 12 years. Oh, I know. Yeah, for sure. I think Quick's definitely. If you put Marc-Andre Fleury in, I think you got to put Jonathan Quick in the Hall of Fame. I'm of the belief they're of the same style goaltender. I actually like Quick more than Fleury, if I'm being honest. I don't know, and it'll be controversial for me to say this, but I don't see Fleury is a first ballot Hall of Famer. I just don't. I don't think he's. I think he's had enough series where he's shown he's not elite in certain aspects. When he played his best, he was elite, no question. But I think there were some bad stretches of his game that I think really do impact his legacy in his career, in more ways than one. And I don't think they should be unnoticed. I think those are things that I think we don't factor in enough. Like his lows were really low, but his highs were high. So it just depends on his overall framework and the belief that you have about what you think a Hall of Famer is. But my threshold usually that I like to do is, if you're a Hall of Famer in my eyes, if you have over 1,000 points, if you haven't won over 1,000 points, you have over 850 and you've won multiple cups. That's kind of my threshold. And then in terms of forwards, defensemen, you lean it a little bit. Like, are you a top 25, top 50 scoring defenseman of all time? Or are you really specialized in a skill? If you fit that category, I think you go in as a defenseman. And I think, or are you like a really great defenseman who has multiple cups and doesn't maybe score as much? That's something I think you factor in as well. And then I think looking at goaltending, that's where you get into, maybe the 300 win club, shutouts over 50, multiple cups. That's kind of the thresholds I put for each of the positions, for those that are in the Hall of Fame. I think those are pretty healthy ones. And I think mostly consensus wise, I believe that's what people think of when they think of, some Hall of Fame guys. We're just under an hour and a half away. Should be interesting to see what else is going to happen here in the rest of the deadline here. Again, for all the chat and all the comments, man, greatly appreciated. Those that have tuned in, it's been, thank you for doing so. And it's going to be fun to kind of talk more about, the rest of these trades as they come in, and we'll see what happens here. So Sean puts another comment in here. Realistically, how huge is the Patty Maroon trade for the Bruins? Good depth and good player, but they can't make a deep run this year, right? Or falling in the same Bruins trap as last year. It's hard to say. I think it really depends on who they face. I mean, honestly, obviously we know I'm a grown up a Wings fan. Sean, I know you're a Wings fan, so you know, I like the Wings against Detroit. I mean, against Boston. To be honest, I think that's the dream matchup. If I'm being honest, I think the Wings have gone and won 2 or 3 times already this year, and they've had their number the last couple of years. So, um, regardless if they have Patty Maroon, I think they look at Patty Maroon as being a guy to really look at, and they need that physicality and that depth that they probably won't get with a Milan Lucic. Um, Milan obviously went through, some substance abuse things and some other things going on that have gone on in his personal life, and I think they were expecting more out of him this year, and so probably not expecting him back the rest of the year. They decided they needed to go after Patty Maroon, and so I think that's going to help them in terms of their physical game. I think it fits more of their identity and their brand to have a guy like Patty Maroon in their lineup, and we'll see. I don't see them making a huge run, if I'm being honest. Like I said, I think I said earlier, was my Stanley Cup final right now is Florida, Colorado. I think, you look at Vancouver's got a real shot there in the West. I think, other Eastern teams would probably be, I think Carolina's got a real look to them. I think, Toronto, if they can find everything and get it right, they can make a run for sure. They've never not been able to, they've never not been able to do it. It's just getting over the hump to do it, and we'll see what happens there. I think there's a ton of potential though, for that to happen, and we'll see what happens out of the trade deadline here. But it should be a trade that moves the needle, and it should impact their team. But it depends on ultimately, what happens in the playoffs here and who they match up with. If they play an equally physical team, I think they'll be happy they have Patty Maroon. I guess that's what I would conclude with. So, but yeah, we'll see what happens. And another trade just popped here, so it looks like Jake Allen going to the Devils. See if I can get a return here on that. But that was a team where I actually forgot to mention them earlier, but they were looking for some depth here. Vitek Vanacek was not playing the way that they expected him to. They, look at other guys that they had in their lineup, and Akira Schmid was another guy who wasn't really shouldering the load the way they would like them to. And I think it's amazing that they've gone on and got a goalie here. I'm curious to see what the return is on that. I'm gonna look right now to see if it's been reported at all. But the latest news being that Jake Allen officially going to the New Jersey Devils from Montreal. Let's see what else here. Okay, right now. It looks like okay, so Sean's got a question here about UFAs. Looks like right-hand defenseman Noah Dobson and Evan Bouchard are on the top 20 list of UFAs next year. Would you consider a right-hand D-man to be the top priority for the Wings at next year's deadline? Hard to say for next year's deadline. I will say that Edmondson is a right shot defenseman, so I think they will want to try him for sure. I think depends on what they think about Albert Johansson, who's another prospect. I'm of the opinion I don't think he's going to make the Wings, but I think they're going to exhaust everything they can to try and get him, an opportunity. Noah Dobson will probably resign. I think he's going to want more money than Mo Sider, because Sider is up this year. I think Mo Sider is going to probably looking at $8.5 million a year is my guess for his salary. So you're going to probably want to sign him to a 7-year deal at 8.5. So it puts you like $60 million for his contract. I think Noah Dobson could get probably even more than that, just because of the way he's played. Bouchard reminds me a lot of Phil Hronik. I don't really love his game, if I'm being honest. I think you have a guy in Shane Gostisbehere who I think has done a better job than Evan Bouchard this year. Um, Evan Bouchard obviously has got the value of having a lot of points and a lot of you know stuff because he's got a guy like Connor McDavid around him. But I think a guy like Evan Bouchard would struggle in Detroit. I don't think he would be putting up the same amount of points. I don't think. I just don't. I don't see the production there, at least for him to come here. So I would think, yeah, it would be nice to get another right hand shot defenseman. I don't know that it doesn't come internally because I think Evanson could do a good job next year. Even in the back half of this year, I think he can do a great job. And whether or not they decide they're gonna keep Shane Gostisbehere is another question as well. So we'll see what happens there. So it looks like Jake Allen return looks to be a conditional third. Thanks for the question, Sean. So it looks like Jake Allen going for a conditional third round pick. I was surprised by that. So it sounds like the conditional third round pick that the Habs get could turn into a second, but it depends on how many games that Jake Allen plays. So we will see here. If there's any other conditions with that? I don't know how many games, but that'll be interesting. It looks like another minor trade that's developing right now is Philadelphia is trading Wade Allison potentially to Nashville for Dennis Gurdionov. That'll be another kid who could be looking at some stuff. And the Habs, for their trade for the Habs, they're retaining half salary as well. So that'll be $1.9 million to get yourself a really solid backup goalie. And as I'm talking about it, Gurionov for Wade Allison gets put up, and that's official. Interesting. Okay, so we'll see what happens here. But again, those two trades pretty recent. Dennis Gurionov to Philly for Wade Allison, just looking for a change of scenery and an environment there. And then Jake Allen going to the New Jersey Devils for a conditional third. So we'll see what happens there, but that'll be interesting. That's for sure. So we're getting into some more stuff here. More trades that are going to be happening. We're officially now an hour and 15 into the end of the deadline. I don't know if there's any sort of shocking guys that have come up for me, but I'll be curious to see what else happens here for the rest of the draft. The rest of the trade deadline. I keep saying draft, but the rest of the deadline. We'll see what other transactions are made through the way here. But another guy who has been added onto the Pat Maroon trade is prospect in Luke Toporowski. He was brought in and traded for he was traded with the conditional sixth to go to Minnesota. So he's going to be going closer to home. A kid who grew up in the Midwest. He's from Iowa. Dad played as a fighter in the minor leagues and things like that. And he's going to go and play in Minnesota and probably play for their AHL affiliate and get some AHL time, which is cool because the AHL affiliate for the Minnesota Wild is in Iowa. So he'll be playing, at home with his family. So that's pretty cool for him. Let me get a drink here. I've been talking for too long. I can tell you right now, my insights through sip of water that metric is pretty high right now. So we'll see what else I can provide here. I'm in limited sips, so hopefully I can get as much as you get as much out of me as you can before the deadline ends. So yeah. So and then you can see the recent trades there again. Dennis Guryanov, former first round pick, traded for Wade Allison. Um, that really is just for a change of scenery. Both are going to play in the NHL, but they're not going to be movers and shakers in the lineup. And then the bigger trade being Jake Allen going to New Jersey for a conditional third. So that should be. They don't have a year actually on the conditional third. Let me see if we can find that. I would assume it's this year. Well, there's no confirmed info on that yet. So let me see what I can find. For some other deals that may happen. Nothing else new as of now. Elliot Freeman just announcing Eric Johnson to Philadelphia. Eric Johnson to Philadelphia, waiting to see if there's a return on it. Let's see here. For those just joining, again, my name's Matt Gordon with the Hidden Hockey Podcast. Run through a recap of some trades here. We'll find out more about Eric Johnson here in a minute, but Radim Simic, and a 2024 seventh round pick, sent to Detroit. Simic has since been sent down to Grand Rapids to provide some future depth down there. And the other way going is Klim Kostin going to San Jose. There's some belief that that's going to open up some spots for Johnny Berggren. Let's be in the lineup and maybe open up some ice time for him. Then again, who sits for Johnny Berggren, considering they've already had Kostin sitting for most of the year. So we'll see what happens there. Jake Allen is also traded to the New Jersey Devils as well for a conditional third. Dennis Guryanov officially traded to Philadelphia, and the Nashville Predators receive Wade Allison. And those are the recent trades as of now in the last maybe hour and a half. We will see what else is developing here. I'm waiting for more information on Eric Johnson to figure out who exactly is the return. But it sounds like Eric Johnson going to the Philadelphia Flyers for some added depth. And with that, it should be interesting there. Any questions, feel free to leave them in the chat below. I'm assuming, it's probably most of the same people that are in here. So sorry for saying it 80,000 times. But if you're a new viewer, obviously subscribe on YouTube. If not, feel free to follow on Instagram and Twitter. I'm going to be posting some more info on, 2024 draft prospects, as well as, some international hockey interviews that I have that I'm looking to round up here, and hopefully we'll get out in the not too distant future. And then obviously, for everything with the trade deadline and prospects today, thank you for those that have joined on and have listened. Greatly appreciate all your content and everything you provided in the chat, and helps make this a little bit of a smoother process when you're doing it for an hour and 54 minutes. And you got people that actually care to listen. So thank you for those that have stayed on and watched the whole time. It's greatly appreciated. Doing a refresh real quick to see if there's any other additional stuff I can find. Whoops, all went down to 2022. It's not the intent. Let me go back up here. There we go. And now we're back. Let's see what else is going on here. So, okay, the return on Eric Johnson. So Eric Johnson was playing in Buffalo, is now traded to Philadelphia. Philadelphia is sending a 4th round pick in this year's draft for Eric Johnson. So the official return is Eric Johnson for a 4th round pick. There's no salary retention as well on the Eric Johnson deal, so it sounds like it's just Eric Johnson straight up for a 4th round pick in this year's draft for Buffalo. So should be a pretty straightforward trade. Let's see what else is going on here, but there's some of the recent stuff. Again, to recap, Eric Johnson, which I don't know if just updated. Eric Johnson going for a 2024 4th round pick. Jake Allen has 50% of his salary retained. Let's see. So the Devils did make their trade for a goalie. I think the goalie market, I would argue, is probably closed for now. I'm not surprised that we didn't go and trade Reimer. I thought maybe we would. There's a small chance of me thinking that might be the case, but I think there's so much uncertainty with Ville Husso right now that it was kind of made a necessity for us to keep the 3 goaltender system going. So I'm hoping that we can, we got an hour here. I think it's going to be a lot of there's some smaller trades. The only goaltender I think I could see going would be Jacob Markstrom. If there is any opportunity that presents itself, but we shall see out of that. I don't know if that's a for sure thing, but it wouldn't surprise me if he was dealt. Because I know they've been looking to potentially do some moves for a long time here, and we'll see what happens going forward into the next little bit here. So, again, recapping the last few minutes, Dennis Gurianov about 15 minutes ago was traded to the Philadelphia Flyers for Wade Allison. Wade Allison going to the Nashville Predators, and then another trade made by Philly, Eric Johnson going to the Philadelphia Flyers in exchange for a 2024 Buffalo 4th round pick in this year's draft. So we'll see what else happens here. I think your big fish item for me right now is Pavel Buchnevich. We'll see if he's actually dealt or not. Not opposed to seeing the Wings look at that. As a potential option. I think there's a ton of potential in terms of different guys that are could be looked at as an option here, and we'll see what else happens here. But I'm super pumped to continue to talk more. We're officially closing in on an hour before the deadline. We've hit 2 hours on the live stream. If you've even stayed for an hour, thank you. If you stayed for 5 minutes, thank you. I know obviously I talk a lot, and it's been a lot to talk this long. And I joked earlier that my insights per sip, per 60 is probably pretty good as of right now. You get a small clip there, the Trade Center here in the corner, put on by TSN every year, but they're so we'll see what else happens here for the rest of the trade deadline. But feel free to leave some comments in the comment section below. We'll see what else is going on in terms of the rest of the deals here for the rest of the day. My opinion on Detroit, I think Detroit's going to stand pat. I think the move was to open up a spot for Kostin. I think Stevie Y, I think, really likes the lineup he's got right now, if I'm being honest. I think I was hoping maybe he would bring some snarl if possible. He probably was looking to add some snarl. But I think once guys like Zach Bogosian were extended, and I don't think there was any interest in getting Radko Gudas or anybody like that. So I think they're going to stare pat as they should, and I think they're going to battle with the roster they have right now. Another trade just came through here. It looks like Andrew Peeke, younger defenseman, going to the Boston Bruins. Younger everyday defenseman in the National Hockey League, actually. We'll see what the return is on that. All right, nothing yet. Just that Pete. Oh, Jacob Zaboral will be heading to the Blue Jackets in exchange for Andrew Peeke. That is by the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Bob McKenzie reporting that. So let's see if it updates on here. It probably won't yet. But in time it will. So it looks like. So that's Jacob Zaboral for the TBD slot. That's going to be Jake Zaboral going to the Columbus Blue Jackets for Andrew Peeke going to Boston. Boston looking just to shore up some defensive players in their core. Another guy who might be more of a depth guy for them, really just to solidify their defensive core and get them in a good approach going forward into the next few picks here. So let's see, Jake Zaboral for. Let's see what else here. Feel free to leave any other questions. If so, I'm gonna refresh real quick. There you go, officially updated with the return there. If you guys have any questions, any sort of things you want to talk about, anything hockey related, it's fine. Obviously, we're talking about trade deadline right now, so preferably those questions. But if not, feel free to put in any questions into the chat that you have. Those that have done so, thank you so much. Greatly appreciate you. And new reviewers that have joined in every once in a while, hope you're enjoying the content. Hope you're enjoying and want to subscribe. And looking forward to seeing more content and stuff that you guys can view and stuff. And you'll get their reactions from. So another question here is Sean puts in here, how much cap space is Vegas getting away with putting big players in IR and reactivating them before playoffs? You see the league changing rules regarding LTIR in the future. Well, with Mark Stone, I believe it's $6 million. I actually would have to look. That's a lot of money. So to bury that and then bring it back eventually, because once you're in the cup, and in the playoffs, the cap cease to exist. Um, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they're able to do in terms of changing the rules for it. I don't know that there's an easy solution, which is why I don't think it's been fixed yet. There it does, teams that really do get screwed. I think this is why the rules in place, but obviously when the rules manipulated in such a way that um, a guy like Mark Stone has to be put on IR. I think it's more the options there, and they want to free it up. Um, that being said, I think the only thing you could do to really prevent it from happening is to have these people submit weekly reports to the NHL. I know that they're required to submit um, injury reports, so like you can't just put anybody on LTIR. Like if he definitely has an injury. There's no question about that. But yeah, there's opportunities there where they could be used as a loophole, like you said. But if they submit injury reports and they're legit injuries, then they're allowed to keep them on LTIR regardless of the severity of the injury. It just if there's a doctor that's willing to report that they are still injured and they physically report as being still injured, they're well within their rights to do it. So um, it's hard to see what else you can do other than just like constantly having to check in and make sure that like, hey, when he's ready to go, he's ready to play, instead of just having him sit out for any point in time. So um, that's the thought there. Thank you for the question, though. It's a great question. Let's see what else is going on here for drafting. I mean, sorry, not for trades. I keep saying draft. You can tell how much I enjoy draft content, obviously, if I keep saying that. Um, Waiver claim. It looks like William Lagesson was claimed by the Ducks. So there's another player that could be picked up here too. Boris Kachuk was another waiver pickup, Ottawa. And then Bjorn Foot, who's another prospect, was picked up by Florida. So that's interesting. A lot of different guys. Blackhawks just lost 2 defensemen. They're definitely going to be losing some guys. So that's a bummer there. It's too bad to see that happen. And yeah, it is what it is. That's the danger of putting somebody on waivers, right? Obviously they don't like the prices of the defensemen. So I think that alone really says a lot about the market, right? I think you're looking at the Wings probably standing pat. I don't think a deal's to be made. Unless he shocks the world here. But I think we're in a spot here where it doesn't really make sense to make any more deals. So it's probably going to be, you're going to get a few, I think, late trades, but I don't think anything that's going to be crazy emerging trades. So we'll see what happens here. But I think the Wings stand pat. I think there will be a few trades, but they're going to be similar to like what we're seeing now with Eric Johnson and some other guys. Just getting some late stuff figured out, and they're probably looking to, a lot of 1-for-1 trades this year. Also, I think that's something I've really noticed is simple 1-for-1 trades seem to be back in action, and don't have to involve a third team. You can just go and do your thing and enjoy yourself, and there's no need to really create any difficulties where there doesn't have to be. So um, we'll see what happens here. Going into it, we're heading up now, just short of 53 minutes from the deadline. I'm gonna probably stay on for a little bit after. I don't think I'm gonna do until 3:30, but I'll stay on for a little bit after and talk it up with those willing to chat. If not, I'll leave it there. But yeah, we'll see what happens here. I think there's a ton of opportunity and things for the rest of the teams here in the National Hockey League to make some additional deals, and I haven't really seen anything too prevalent on Twitter in terms of some last minute deals or anything like that. But we shall see. Let me keep rolling in here. We just talked about some waiver pickups and things. Let's see. No waiver claims, or no new names on waivers today. Tony DeAngelo cleared waivers. That should be interesting. Means he could be sent down to the AHL if need be. Doesn't really say a lot for the thoughts that Carolina has on Mr. DeAngelo. So he might be somebody who might be gone here in the not too distant future. Again, to recap some earlier trades, we'll go into some other guys. Jake Savaro for Andrew Peak. Johnson for a fourth rounder going to Philly. Gurianov going to Philly for Wade Allison going to New Jersey. Jake Allen going to the New Jersey Devils for a conditional third that goes to Montreal. And then the Wings pick there. The Wings trade. The Wings trade Radim Simic and a 2024 seventh rounder. They go to Detroit, and Klim Kostin goes to San Jose to fit more in their lineup as well. So those are the most recent ones in the last hour and a half. And yeah, so as always, again, thanks for joining in the content. Back up to about 5 people. We had about 7 earlier, which is great. Grateful for those that stay on. Let's see what else is going on here. We can talk more about some other prospects and things like that as well. I might actually go and maybe flip to some draft coverage actually as well. So let me get myself situated here. I might show a quick mock and some info here. So bear with 1 second here. Let me look here. All right, cool. I'm going to actually share a different screen here. I'll go back in a second, but I will present a different screen here talking about the 2024 draft. And we'll go back and forth between draft coverages here and there, but we'll talk a little bit more about the upcoming picks in this year's draft. So one in particular, I didn't do like a draft analysis on what team picks what, but obviously the San Jose Sharks are a team that's number one in the draft here, so they're looking to pick Macklin Celebrini. Macklin Celebrini is a pretty highly thought of kid. He's from Canada, but his dad is the director of performance for the Golden State Warriors. He's played for the San Jose Sharks system and went through the San Jose Sharks system. Eventually went to Shattuck St. Mary. As a 14-year-old, went there, played prep as a 14-year-old, dominated just like Crosby did. Very intriguing player, interesting prospect. I wouldn't call him generational, but I'd call him probably a step or two below that. Interesting player nonetheless. I think I like his skill, I like his potential, I like the ability he brings. Um, he's not going to be a McDavid. He's not going to be a Bedard. He's not going to be a Matthews. But I think he'll be a Mitch Marner type, or he'll be, that type of player. Who's a really high end player, but he's not going to be your, top 10 player in the National Hockey League. He's pretty close. My number 2 right now is Cole Yzerman, but I think that gap is closing. Cole Yzerman is a kid who is going to be on pace to put up 75 goals for the National Development Team program. Absolute superstar. In terms of his goal scoring ability. His defensive game still needs a lot of work, but there's a lot of potential there. I think there's a lot that you could see going on for him as a player, but I have him at 2 for now just because of his goal scoring ability, but we'll see what happens, going forward in the next little bit here. Number 3 projection right now is a kid from Michigan State. Those that are in the state of Michigan, keep an eye on this kid. His name's Artem Levshinov. From Belarus originally. He's been in North America for the last 3 years. Right before COVID, he came here and is a dynamite hockey player. Absolute stud. Has been fitness testing at levels above those in the National Hockey League. He's actually considered already in the elite in terms of fitness. Based on a lot of performance coaches that have worked with him, he is coming as a freshman to Michigan State and absolutely dominated college hockey, averaging more than a point per game. To me, the most NHL ready of any of the prospects in this draft. I do think he needs another year potentially, but a kid who's an absolute can't miss player. You look at Costa Helenius is a kid from Finland who's forward. Really like his game and his overall ability. And to me, these are the top 4 guys that are all going to be guys who have a decent shot of at least playing pro hockey next year. 3 of the 4 probably playing in the NHL, and then Cole Yzerman's going to look to go to college and play there. And then you get the rest of the list here. The ones that are highlighted are my upcoming highlight reels I'm going to do, and then I'm going to go all the way down the list basically, make about 20 to 25 highlight reels I think before the end of this, just to kind of promote and create more draft opportunities and coverage for these guys. But this is kind of a loose based mock draft, if you will, of my top 16 or so players and where I see them fitting. Weak year for Sweden. Sweden's not going to have a strong year in the draft, but we'll see what happens there, and we'll see what other things we can, talk about and see what happens there. I think Finland's got a really good draft this year. I think Canada and the U.S. are always strong draft candidates and always lead the way in the non-traditional hockey talent. We'll come in the later rounds, but there's some decent ones that are coming in the rounds to come as well. So let's jump back here to the actual trade tracker. Just want to give you a little preview to those that may have not seen it before, but I just want to give you guys my thoughts on the picks available in this year's draft, since we're seeing a lot of first rounders getting flipped around in 24 and then some in 25 as well. As far as trades go, it's pretty much the same old. Waiting for more information in regards to different guys that are available. Let's see. Yeah, nothing new as of now. Yeah, nothing new. We're waiting on these teams to kind of finalize some trades. Again, if you've been on here for a long period of time, thank you very much. Feel free to subscribe to any content. If you have viewed any of my previous content, feel free to do so. Thank you again for those that have joined on and been interested in the content. Greatly appreciate it, and hoping to have continued content growth and different things I'm going to put out to help really kind of bolster the content that's been already put out by me and the various videos I put out. So let's see here. Who would you define as the biggest winner and loser of this year's deadline? Well, the big loser right now seems to be Arizona. I don't think they thought before they made that Zucker deal. That was just a waste of an asset. Biggest winner, tough to say. I think you look at guys like I think Colorado did a great job. Middlestad, Sean Walker, um, some other guys that just Walker. You had you know you got Jakob Trenin was another guy that you got. Um, just did a really good job just managing depth and getting some players that really will bolster their everyday lineup. I think it's important that they were able to do that. I think Vegas did a great job getting Anthony Mantha and then also getting Noah Hannafin. Um, they just continue to find ways to spend and then also get guys that are, some serious value. I think, Winnipeg with Monahan and where was the other pick at? I didn't see it offhand, but there it is. It was Monahan and Tyler Toffoli. There's just a lot of good teams. I think Vegas did a great job. Like I just stated, Winnipeg would be one. And that's what I would say for now. I think those are kind of I think Buffalo did a good job too, getting Byram, getting Kali Jalen, getting a few other guys that they want to solidify within their lineup and within their future systems to really kind of grow and get them going in the next little bit here. So it's fun to see what these teams are doing. I think it's interesting that the Wings did what they did. I would call them a loser because I think the thought was more beyond, looking back now and keeping the theme of the Wings and the way they've done things is giving guys opportunities and then finding guys new spots when they can't see their opportunities here. And I think that's exactly what they did with Klimkos. And I think, the lack of physicality that's going to be through the lineup is going to be missed. And I hope that they can just continue to fight with some edge, fight with some power, and get to where they need to be. They're going to find themselves here, and they're going to find that they, need to just continue to keep playing with that urgency. I think that's the biggest thing the Wings are lacking right now. And if they can continue to really play with that tenacity, they've already got the work ethic. That's not the issue. It's just the ability to really intimidate and force people into positions that are going to make them uncomfortable. I think that's what's most important. And we'll see what happens here going into the rest of the deadline. But that's my thought there. So let's go back here to the top. I don't have any strong opinions on guys that are still left here. I'm not surprised that there's guys that are still kind of looking up and looking for opportunities. But we'll see what happens here. I just read a rumor about potentially Max Pacioretty going to the New York Rangers. And if that's the case, that's a massive trade that we're still waiting on. We'll see what happens here, but that would be cool. Just kind of talk about that, see what kind of other transactional pieces come from that. But we shall really see if that actually comes to fruition or not. There's another rumor here about the Wings, put out by the same guy who put out the Bergen rumor. Sounds like the Wings have been searching for a veteran forward, like I thought earlier, to add to their roster. We'll see if they're looking, but they're sounds like there's some potential talks there. We'll see what happens. Go figure. The trade center just did the same thing I did with the draft. Just did their top 16. So that's hilarious. That is too funny. But pretty similar actually. Not too terribly different. I'll probably put out a comparison between the two on Instagram. Put my mock up compared to theirs, and let people decide who had the better mock, and have them put their comments in. So that'll be interesting. Let's see what else is going on here for the rest of it here. Nothing new here for right now for trades. Just the rumor mill is brewing still. The two biggest rumors I just mentioned were Max Pacioretty potentially going to the New York Rangers, and for Detroit to look at adding another veteran forward. Some say that they probably want to forward with Bite. Curious to see what that means. Not really sure who's out in the market still that fits that. But we shall find that out. I'm curious on the Jake Allen stuff going on. Jake Allen's doing a round of interviews right now. It sounds like they had a lot of interest in Jake Allen throughout the year, so Jake kind of knew that, ran with it. And I think it's something that they put a lot of thought into, and for them to make the move to do that, obviously a guy like Akira Schmid, sorry, is gonna maybe move into that third role, and then Jake Allen and Vanacek probably split the time, and that'll be kind of the New Jersey Devils goaltending going forward. We shall really see whatever happens here. We'll really figure that out and determine, what those other logical things that happen will be. But we'll see what exactly happens here next. Again, as always, feel free to leave any comments and questions in the chat. Look forward to talking to everybody on here. And thank you for everybody who submitted questions. I don't think I'd be going for super long here, but I mean, 2.5 hours is a lot of talking from me. And thank you for all the questions and all your guys' insights and approaches to everything. It's really made for a lot better of a live stream. So thank you for those that have committed and been willing to do and take their time to listen here. So as always, feel free to leave any questions or anything in the comments. I'll answer anything and we'll go from there. So I'm going to take a quick step out. I'll be right back. Stay tuned for more coverage in about 90 seconds. Thanks. All right, welcome back. So, hitting the 2.5 hour mark already, Val. Going in here, looking at some trades. Nothing new as of the last couple minutes here. We'll see what else is going on in terms of trades and stuff. Let's see. Nothing new. Let's see here. Any other trades? Yeah, nothing new as of right now. See here, nothing new in terms of different things going on. We can look to see what else we can find up here. Again, for those who joined, thank you again so much for your opportunity to listen and have you, take my time. It's greatly appreciated. We're gonna go into the other stuff here. See if there's any more transactions I'm not aware of. It doesn't sound like it right now. Oh, okay. The Zaboral trade has an added function to it. So Andrew Peak goes to Boston. Columbus gets Jacob Zaboral and a 2027 third round pick. So there's an added piece to that deal before it was made final. We shall see what happens here. Kevin Weeks just put out a series of tweets here. He puts out eyes emoji, Golden Knights. I can't wait for what that means. And then he has a thread that said hearing multiple teams were going at trades or something like that. I have to look to see what exactly he meant by that. See if I can find that tweet again. I'll read it off if I do. Nothing new in terms of the other stuff. So how far in advance are picks allocated in NHL teams, and do you have any insight as to how a team builds their strategy towards the 2027 draft decision? being that they traded a 2027 draft pick, I don't think they know anything about the 27 draft as of right now. A lot of NHL teams do their scouting anywhere from 18 to 24 months up until the draft of that player. Unless you're like a Connor McDavid type, then your Connor McDavids of the world have been scouted since they were 14. Connor Bedard, same thing. Like the really high end kids are going to be known by the entire hockey world by the time they're 14. So this is just let's throw a pick. We don't have anything until 2027. Let's throw a third rounder out there. Teams can trade up to, I think, 2030. So I think it's 6 years out. You can trade out picks. Does it make sense to do that? I guess if you don't really care. But that's usually what it is. So they probably don't know. I mean, to be honest, I think the majority of the scouting industry would agree. They don't know when the 2027 draft. I don't think there's a consensus number one right now, right? 24, you would argue it's Macklin Celebrity. 25 right now, it's a fight between James Higgins and Michael Misa. And 26 right now, there's a lot of names you can see out there, but I think one that's leading the pack is Gavin McKenna, who is ironically Connor Bedard's cousin. Those are guys who I think are, teams know about at least. I don't think they know anything in terms of the other high-end kids yet. Landon DuPont's another kid who I think might have some names, because Jeff Merrick's put some info out on him already as a 14-year-old kid. But I wouldn't put him as a favorite right now either. But we'll see what happens here. I think there's just so much more to unpack here with the rest of the trades here. But yeah, nothing really in terms of. I doubt anybody knows much about 2027 in the draft unless you're a nerd like me and can cover that, or you're an OHL team or something like that, because an OHL team would be looking at guys for 2027 because they're looking to fill their 15 and 16-year-olds on their roster, so they would know about those kids. So thanks for the question, Sean. Let's see what else is going on here for added additional stuff. I have a feeling we're getting a lot of late trades here. We just have a weird feeling about it. Nothing more than just a gut feel, but looking like Matt Dumba might have just been traded to Tampa Bay. There you go. See, spoke that into existence. So it looks like Matt Dumba to Tampa Bay for a not sure on the return yet, but we'll find that out in a minute. Let's see what else is going on with that here. For those who just joined, it sounds as if Matt Dumba might have been traded to Tampa Bay. So we will see what else is going on here. Chris Johnson just retweeted it. Jordan Smaltz is one that had put it out there. Former NHL hockey player. And we shall see what that return will be. I'm not sure yet. Freeze just put out a tweet saying that it's picking up steam in Tampa Bay for Dumba to Tampa Bay. Let's see what else is going on with this. We'll probably get some late trades. There'll probably be some trades that'll happen after I'm done with the stream. I'm not going to cover them or anything like that. I just covered as much as I could before the deadline, and we'll see what happens here. But that's the latest as of right now, is that Dumba looking like he's going to be traded. And not sure on the return yet. Officially now, they put it on TSN. Let's see what else is going on here. Let me see here. It sounds like there's picks involved in this for Matt Dumba. So Matt Dumba going to Tampa Bay, and it looks like there might be a pick swap potentially. So we'll see what happens there. But those who just joined, I don't know if you're rejoining or if you had an internet connection loss or whatever you had. Thank you again for joining. There's been a lot that's gone on today. This is going to load as a recording after a live stream. So if you missed anything, feel free to jump back in the live stream and get my input on every trade that happened today. I pretty much have analysis for everything that happened. So more than welcome to sift through and find it in the content. And thank you again for listening. Again, still looking for more info on the Matt Dumba deal. It sounds like it's based around picks, but we're not 100% sure yet. And not the greatest news for Detroit, just because that's not good to see Tampa Bay loading up. I'm hoping that means that they, either they falter in some way or they just keep doing what they're doing and just stay the way they are. So we'll see what happens. But again, those who are on here, thank you for, staying on to hear more from me on the trade deadline acquisitions that happened today. Again, as always, if you haven't already, feel free to subscribe on YouTube. You just go at Hidden Hockey, and then Twitter, Hidden Hockey as well, and then Instagram as well. So thank you again for those that have paid attention. I got a lot of good content coming up here in the not too distant future. I'm going to keep posting as much as I can and kind of get as much traction as I can on the channel. Let's see what else, if there's any updates here. Nothing on Trade Tracker. Let's see what else is going on. Still waiting on the Dumba deal. Not sure on what picks are being had yet, but we'll find out. Thanks for those that are joined and watching. Promise you I got a lot more content. We're still going to be on here for at least until 3:15. Again, thanks for joining and the content. We hit 8. There we go. Very cool. I'm stoked about that. Thanks for whoever joined on. Greatly appreciative of you guys jumping on and getting more info. I'm gonna do a short little recap again. Matt Dumba going to Tampa Bay for a potential pick swap. It sounds like right now we're just waiting on that confirmation for the information, and then Boston made a deal for Andrew Peeke. Andrew Peeke is a depth defenseman going to Boston, and the Columbus Blue Jackets get Jacob Zaboral and a 2027 third-round pick. Eric Johnson traded to Philly for a fourth-round pick in this year's draft, and Gurianov traded to the Flyers as well for Wade Allison. And one of the bigger trades, at least of this afternoon, Jake Allen going to the New Jersey Devils for a conditional third-round pick in this year's draft. The condition on that, from what I understand, is if Jake Allen plays more than 40 games this year and next, that moves up to a second, I believe. I think that's what I read. I might be wrong, but that's what I've understood it as. So, are you surprised that the Bruins held on to both Ullmark and Swayman? No, not at all. Actually, I think they do have a guy in Providence, which is their AHL affiliate, and Brandon Bussey is his name, and he's a good player. I just don't think he's NHL ready, and I don't think they want to depend on a guy being their backup who's not ready. Ullmark and Swayman to me are both guys who could be bona fide starters in the National Hockey League, but that's what's providing Boston the records they've had, and I don't think goaltending is going to be their downfall. I think it's going to be their team play. So if they can't play as a team, they'll be at their own fault. And it is what it is at that point, right? I think that's where they find out, what they can do and how they can grow as a team and a player, and as players themselves. So I think eventually a move will be made at some point, but I don't think it's right now. It might be towards the draft. So thanks for that. Thanks for that, Sean. And still waiting to hear back on the Dumba deal. Um, let's see what else is going on here in the draft world. We are going in on 15 minutes from the deadline. So thank you again, as always, to those that have followed the content, and I really appreciate the support. And let's get some more info. Here we go. We got the return here. So Matt Dumba in his seventh in 2025 to Tampa in exchange for a fifth round pick in 2027. So no salary retention on uh, on Dumba at all. Again, Arizona is again existing. I don't know who is thinking of these ideas in Arizona, but they are just not. They don't have hockey decisions being made there anymore. I think they're a team that's going to be sold here in the near future. I really think. You're gonna see Arizona go to Salt Lake City. You heard it here first. Arizona moves to Salt Lake City. Salt Lake City gets the team. Again, you heard it here first. Former Red Wing Magnus Hellberg was traded to Florida. For Florida gets back a goalie in Ludovic Weber and a conditional 2025 seventh. So that's another trade that just broke. Uh, interesting trade there as well. Um, yeah, it does feel like nothing for Dumba. I'm not totally convinced that they're not. There's some news here, I think, to be broke. I really think, based on the laissez-faire attitude and their trading, they're gonna get they're gonna get sold here. I think there's not gonna be a team in Arizona here for the next couple years. I think there's something going on here that we don't know yet. That's just my thought. It's very weird. Both of their deals have been very WTF things. So I not really sure what they're doing, and they've all been for picks. So take that if you will, for what it's worth, and yeah, that should be interesting. So I don't know how else or where else that comes from, but we'll see what happens there. That's just interesting little trade there. Let's just load up real quick. Again, Magnus Hallberg. That's a trade there for Ludovic Weber and a seventh for 2025. That's not included on that. So, odd trade there in the last. We got 12 minutes now from the deadline. We'll get some more that I think that leaks out. Okay, Saravalli just reported Max Pacioretty is staying in Washington. So it sounds like they couldn't get a deal done between the New York Rangers and the Washington Capitals. And it sounds like Pacioretty will stay a Washington Capital. And that's according to Saravalli. Let's see what other items are going on here. waiting for additional info here. I can't believe that double trade. That's Arizona just continuing to get fleeced by the rest of the National Hockey League. And then another trade here. Looks like the Rangers instead decided to go for Jack Roslovic. So Jack Roslovic traded to the New York Rangers in exchange for a mid-round pick in 2026. So the Rangers again acquiring Jack Roslovic for a mid-round pick. They do not have clarification on the round. I would think it would be a third-round pick. Still waiting on the info for Roslovic. But again, the rumor, it sounds like it could be final, is Jack Roslovic from the Rangers going to the Rangers from Columbus in exchange for a mid-round pick in 2026. Sean, Sean, apparently hearing Crosby to Philly, that'd be a hell of a way to close the deadline, wouldn't it? That would be a hell of a way to close the deadline. That's good though. That's good stuff, Shawnee. Um, would love to see that. So the Roslovic thing is confirmed now by Johnston and Freeman. We're just waiting on the return. So that's an official one for Roslovic. Again, my guess is for a third, but we'll see. Other news for acquisition wise, Antti Ranta assigned to the Chicago Wolves of the AHL. So this should be interesting there. So Antti Ranta sent to the AHL. So no other info right now. Roslovic is for a mid-round pick, but they haven't clarified whether or not it's a third or not. Wings really doing nothing this deadline. Shame as it seems every team in the East added. I'm curious to see what they say. I think they really tried to get Hannafin. It sounds like everything I've read is they were going for Hannafin, and I'm assuming the rumors at one point were that Brian Rust was supposed to become a Red Wing. My guess is that his medical didn't clear, and he can't get traded if his medical doesn't clear. So that's my guess in what happened. But I know they were interested both in Hannafin and in Brian Rust. So that's my guess. Obviously, they were able to move Costin to get him more opportunity. But yeah, I think a lot of things fell through. We'll see if Stevie comes out with a presser. If he does, I'm sure he'll talk more about it. But that's my guess on what happened. We are 4 minutes from the deadline. Again, I'm closing in on 3 hours, which it's weird. It weirdly gets easier, and it's probably not a good thing. But thank you for those that joined and done, done God's work and putting in comments and helping me out with the algorithm. Greatly appreciate it. Hopefully over time this will garner a few different views and get some more people involved here. But greatly appreciate those that have gone on and have done what they've done and watching me the whole time. So greatly appreciate that, and hopefully this will be pushed out to the ether, and there'll be more people we can talk to about this. So, see what else is going on. Check Twitter real quick. So we don't say X in this family. We don't say X. Sarah Valley just said the Oilers are done. Fourth round pick for Roslovic. So a fourth round pick, it'll become a third if the Rangers make the Stanley Cup Finals. So that's the option there. And then Vegas is working on a Thomas Hertl deal with San Jose. So Vegas working on a deal to get Thomas Hertl from San Jose. That's per Bob McKenzie. Not looking forward to that. Yeah, East is looking even scarier. Yeah. I mean, it is. They're looking scary for sure. The Wings are gonna put in what they put in, but I'd rather have them try and do things instead of like forcing the issue. I don't mind them standing pat. I just wish that maybe the Hannafin deal would have worked out a little differently. That would have been nice. But another trade that just happened: Colin Miller is traded for a mid-round pick, according to Darren Dreger. It is again Colin Miller traded for a mid-round pick. Mid-round pick yet to be clarified. And then the Thomas Hertl one, that'll be interesting. We'll see what comes out of that. We'll see. Yeah, that's what we were just saying, Sean. Thomas Hertl going to Vegas. So we'll see what happens there. If I were to guess, it's either going to be a lot of picks or, um, yeah, it has to be. I think it would have to be a lot of picks. Um, they're probably going to give him like a first and a couple seconds and maybe like a random roster guy. That's what I would anticipate. So we'll see what happens there. I don't think they're going to add more on one side or the other. I just think that's going to be what happens. So we shall see. Looks like they added more conditions here on the trade. So let me see if we can find more out about it. Who's the next captain for Buffalo now that Poso is gone to Florida? One of the young D studs. That's a great question. Probably Tage Thompson. I think that's going to be who it is. A lot of he's a little bit older than the other guys, and I think there's a lot of respect for him in the room. From what I've heard on a couple different podcasts with some of the beat writers in Buffalo, I think it'll probably be Tage Thompson. That's what I would expect, and then Rasmus Dahlin probably gets an A, and maybe Owen Power gets the other A. But I could see Tage Thompson. Let's see what else we got going here. Yeah. Nothing new on Hurdle yet. Colin Miller to the Jets. What was he like in New Jersey? Colin Miller's a steady defenseman, middle pairing guy. I'd liken him to like a Ken Danico. Um, he played for New Jersey. He was just a steady guy. He doesn't do anything impressive. He's not going to get you more than 5 or 10 goals a year. But you get a steady defender. Um, I look at him like an Oli Mata, maybe. Oli Mata is probably a better comparison. Guys who they play smart, do anything amazing, and yeah. So, confirmation on Phil Kessel, by the way. They are officially not signing Phil Kessel, the Rangers. I mean, the Canucks. So the Canucks are not signing Phil Kessel. But yeah, that's what the Jets are getting. They just wanted to probably solidify the middle of their decor, and he'll be probably a second pairing guy for them, and just play really smart defensively. So, but that's a bombshell too, though, about Phil Kessel. He's probably going to officially retire, I would think, and that was kind of his last hurrah. But good on him. Unbelievable career out of him. He'll probably be one of those border candidates for the Hall of Fame. I don't know that he'll get in. I think, especially because of his history in Toronto, I think a lot of people are going to really try and prevent him from being there, in my opinion. So we'll see what happens, but I don't think it's optimistic. He makes the Hall of Fame. Let's see what else is in the hopper, if they've reported anything else. Let's see what else is going on here. Nothing new here for different guys here. See what else is going on here. I don't know if there's going to be more info or not by the time I jump off here, but I'll be on for probably another 10-ish minutes or so. And hopefully we'll get more info by then. Wow. Yeah, that loophole rule is going to get looked at. Vegas now has the opportunity, this is according to Mikey Stevens, who runs an account with Rachel Dory, a former NHL executive. Um, they have the ability to activate over $17 million off of IR and LTIR once the regular season ends. So that's pretty disgusting. It's basically why I have a cap. So interesting nonetheless. I don't know how they're going to swing this or how they're going to make it work, but I don't really love that that's a thing. I don't really love that that's possible. Um, Pretty shocking coming from Vegas. That's pretty amazing. So we'll see what happens, but yeah. So it's going to be a very interesting dynamic here. So let's see what else is going on. Let's see, we're gonna have. Let's see here. Okay, no info coming out just yet. I'm wondering if Bob McKenzie's going to tweet anything out. Ooh, okay. We got details. So, Hurdle going to Vegas. Um, in return, San Jose receives first pick in 25. David Edstrom, who was a first round pick in 2023, a third in 25, and a third in 27. He just took down the tweet. He might have got it wrong. Bear with. But it sounds like a first, David Edstrom, a third, and a third for Hurdle. Let's see if we can confirm that. So there's gonna be some salary. So here's the official. First and 25. Sorry, not in 24. First and 25. David Edstrom. They're gonna retain 17% of salary. Third and 25. Third and 27. That's your trade. So we go. Hurdle goes to Vegas. Vegas gives first and 25. David Edstrom. Hurdle gets retained 15 or 17%. Third and 25. Third and 27. That's your official return there. With that, I'm pretty much done here. Thank you all for joining me on the Hurdle blockbuster and the rest of the trade deadline today. Greatly appreciate everybody who jumped on and paid attention. Hopefully, I made your workday a lot easier for those that were working. And stay tuned for future content coming out on the channel. Really excited for it. You guys have a great day.